All right, let's start with the phones because those are probably the most interesting.
Yeah.
Now, the big thing here, obviously everyone's going to ask, 5G.
Yeah.
They all got them.
They all got 5G. They all got all forms of 5G.
And they technically they're calling them the S21 5G, the S21 plus 5G.
That's correct.
And then is it the S21 Ultra 5G? Or I don't think they even say 5G for that.
I think they do. They put the logo in the name. I think Samsung specifically refers to them just as the regular device name. But 5G is in the official long form name.
Eventually, they won't have to say it because every phone will just be 5G and it'll just be a big deal.
It'll just be like LTE. Like nothing was named LTE.
Well, I think originally they did have.
You're probably right.
Remember, because the iPhone, there was the iPhone 3G.
It was in there.
And then they're like, no, this is not a good plan.
So yeah, I think what I want to say the biggest changes here is for the S21 and for all the devices actually, is they're $200 cheaper across the board, right?
That's a big deal.
Pricing and availability, these are starting at $800 for the S21, $1,000 for the S21 Plus, and $1,200 for the S21 Ultra. This is getting you 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage for the S21 models. And I think the S21 Ultra is actually giving you a little bit more RAM. I think it's 12 gigs for the baseline, goes up to 16 gigs if you choose to upgrade.
Now, $1,200 for the Ultra. Why would you ever pay that price for a phone?
Well, I think that's what Samsung's actually trying to convince you here.
Okay.
We'll talk about this in a bit, but Samsung actually removed key features on the S21 devices, I think, to prop up the S21
to make
Ultra.
The Ultra look even cooler.
Put it on this pedestal, make it look like a worthy upgrade. So
that
we'll have
makes
to
sense.
see if it's worth it.
Well, let's start with the S21 and S21 Plus because those are the ones that most people are probably going to be looking at. Are they basically the same?
They're in some areas they are pretty much the same as the S20, but in some areas they're worse, and in some areas they're a little bit better.
Okay.
Where do you want to start?
The only difference between these two phones is the size, right?
Size, battery. I think that's it. Yeah, size and battery.
So kind of like the iPhone Pro or 12 Pro Plus and Max.
So if you're going
they go Max.
It's the 12 mini and the 12. The only difference is the size, and the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max. There's actually more differents because the 12 Pro Max has the new cameras. Yeah. They have the new camera sensor.
So it's more like the mini and the regular.
Mini and the 12, yeah. So they're pretty much the same. What's new? What's different? So there's actually a few downgrades this year, and I think this is kind of like the headline feature for these phones.
It's the downgrades.
Yeah. It's what everyone is talking about because it's like so often. We joke about like every presentation, it's the best one ever. It's like, oh, of course it's the best. And here it's like, well, wait a minute. Is it actually the best?
Well, they're saying it's the best because of the price.
That's probably true. Is the price worth it? So here's what's missing. You're getting a lower resolution display. So it's a 1080p display at 120 hertz. And I think what happened is Samsung was looking at the analytics for their S20 devices, and those shipped at 1080p and at 60 hertz. And they probably saw, all right, most people actually left it on the default because they didn't know they could change it or whatever. Yeah. And the people who did change the setting chose to go for 1080p at 120 hertz as opposed to upgrading to the 1440p resolution, but limited to 60 hertz. So they were like, all right, if we're putting a new display in this phone, like 1080p is probably fine. Most people didn't seem to notice, and we'll just give them 120 hertz.
I mean, are they collecting those analytics?
I feel like they are.
Well, I was thinking focus groups, but they probably are collecting those analytics too.
You can just tell. I mean, because the 120 hertz, that makes the biggest difference in usability of a phone.
Well, see, you know what they're going to do?
What are they going to do?
They're going to do every year, they're going to go from, all right, next year it's going to be like, and now our new incredible 4K display, but they'll drop the 120 hertz. And the year after, they'll be like, and now our new smooth motion 120 hertz, incredible, like you can't even see it, but they go down to 1080.
They drop it. They
just keep going back and forth.
It's always new.
It's always a new upgrade.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. You're also getting a plastic back on the S21. I actually believe the Plus is getting a glass back, which is kind of confusing. They have the same camera sensors as last year, so the only difference camera-wise is actually going to be in the processing of the images, thanks to the new Snapdragon 888 processor
and the software
optimizations. Samsung was throwing around the AI buzzword in there.
Yeah,
we got AI doing all kinds of stuff,
a bunch of photos at once, and
you gotta love it. You're also missing the MicroSD card. There's no MicroSD card expansion option.
They got rid of that finally.
I mean, a lot of people liked it, so it's sad to see it go. But you also,
finally, like I'm surprised they still had it because I feel like they would have instantly killed it off.
Like the headphone jack.
Yeah,
Just as soon as Apple did. Well, Apple never had it.
So I don't even know why.
They should have stopped from the
beginning.
beginning.
What are they doing? Yeah.
And this went under the radar, but the magnetic stripe technology, this is called MST. This was actually used for mobile payments.
Okay.
And what was so cool about this is you could go to any payment terminal, and the phone actually generated sort of the magnetic stripe, like that signal you get when you actually swipe your card.
Yeah.
So you could use it on pretty much any terminal, any transaction terminal. Really, really cool. That got the axe this year. It's gone.
You own S20.
I do, yep.
Did you ever use that?
I never used it.
All right, that's
once.
why that got the
Well,
axe.
I feel like if you're a Samsung user, you would use that, but I
feel
didn't
like
add my credit card.
most people
payment
would just
info,
use Samsung Pay, I feel like.
or Google Pay.
Or Google Pay.
Well, I think Samsung Pay was the one that actually took advantage of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're doing all in.
Either
on
way,
NFC.
most places now have just the tap to pay, and if not, I just leave.
You want to cover some of the other actual like improvements in the phones now, and
There was no improvements, right?
well, there actually
I know,
were.
I'm kidding. The big thing we saw was Gorilla Glass Victus, I think, which is this the same thing that's on the new iPhones, or?
I'm not sure about that, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if Apple is getting like a generation ahead, or if they're just taking the
special
Victus,
version maybe,
and like rebranding it.
Yeah.
Apple goes really in depth in their keynote on how they're making their glass and the process there. My guess is it's very similar in terms of characteristics, and my understanding is this has actually really good drop resistance, shatter resistance, and I think scratch resistance as well.
That's good, because I scratched my iPhone 12 Max within like
I know, I feel kind of bad about that.
a month.
It was like less than
It's
that.
disgusting.
I know, and it's a big one too. You got to put a screen protector on there or something.
Yeah,
to cover
and it's
it up.
annoying. It looks like a hair, so I'm like blowing on it. And
yeah, trying to like smudge it away.
Did we mention the sizes of these phones? So
We did not.
6.2 inches for the smaller regular S21 and 6.7 inches for the Plus.
I think those are about the same as last year. I'm actually not sure about that.
It's about in the range. Like they're kind of all going in that 6-inch range for the regular phones.
Yep.
The screen, it's 1300 nits.
Yeah, that got an improvement. So 1300 nits on the S20. I got a wrong spec. 1500 is on the Ultra.
Ultra, yeah. So that's a good thing to note, is that the Ultra is definitely still brighter screen. What else did it have? They have our standard, the 128 gigabytes, 256. That's standard. They did get rid of the microSD card now.
Yeah, so
you have to remember,
you're limited to just those.
Yeah, if you're coming from a previous Samsung phone and you're always like, oh, I just get the baseline model and then pop in a 256 gigabyte, microSD. Now you got to actually level up,
shell out. Well, the good news is the difference in price is only $50.
Yeah, they're not like Apple and going up $150, $100 sometimes even.
That was crazy. What do you think of their new Eye Comfort Shield? This is the technology that supposedly reduces the blue light emission of the phone throughout the day.
I don't even know if I saw this thing.
It was in the keynote. I was just like,
I was taking notes. I think I missed part of that. But
actively taking notes.
Oh no, I did see part of it. Yeah. I think it's a good idea. Like it seemed kind of like what Google is already doing though, and kind of what Apple does too.
Well, what's unclear to me is if this is display technology that's somehow different than a blue light filter, because we already have on existing Samsung phones, Android phones, iPhones.
Exactly.
You can reduce
the display isn't as color accurate.
Yeah. So
is it going to be just as color accurate?
That's what I think I heard from the presentation was accurate colors, reduced blue light emission, and reduced eye strain.
We'll wait and see.
That's a big question mark to me.
Sure. And I see you put in here that the iPhone 12 is only 1200 peaks brightness. So
yeah,
these S21s, which that's always been true. I feel like that the Samsung phones have always seemed brighter than iPhones. Yeah,
they've typically had, I want to say, like leading perceived quality.
Yeah.
I think the color accuracy, there's been some variances there. And things like that. But this phone should be excellent for HDR content with that great peak brightness.
Yeah. Anything else we need to know about these? One thing, people have to buy their own charger now.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? No charger in the box.
Whatever. I don't care.
Gabe doesn't care.
I literally do not care. I get why they're not doing it, and I'd rather not buy their charger and just buy one from a company who specializes in chargers.
Samsung makes actually pretty good chargers. Last year I got a 25 watt fast charger.
I mean, that's all right, but
enough to charge my
personally,
iPad.
I charge so many things. having a charging brick that's just one USB thing is so useless to me.
Oh, you need more.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always going to buy one that has at least 2 or 3.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah,
So-
I respect that. I would have liked to see, I mean, they kind of did it, but a more direct price drop in correlation. Like, let's say they offer 2 models, one with the charger, one without. If you go without, you actually save like $25 or something like that. To me, I think that's a better approach because
I
you
don't
feel
know.
like you're actually getting
Then you
savings.
have to box it up.
I know, it's a disaster for them.
Or
So I
maybe
get
they
it.
should have done like a little animation, like, and announced the price and then said, but then we saw, let's just remove that charger.
Yeah, if they just added that in, I think
I don't know, because I think they're trying to take it away from the whole price thing and put it into because they mentioned sustainability, like Apple.
Yeah, Apple's thing.
So
I mean, it makes sense. You can fit more phones on a shipping pallet. It actually improves efficiencies and economics. It's more profitable. But yeah, it's kind of sad to some degree to see it go.
Now, what else do we see? Cameras. You said it's the same camera, so is everything pretty much the same?
Yeah, well, it has a new name. So the new design actually I think looks really nice. And
I do too, yeah.
They're calling it the contour cut camera housing.
All right.
And how would you describe this to people listening to the podcast?
I thought you were the describer.
All right, you got it.
It just feels like a little like
okay, Gabe, I'm going to stop you right there.
Thing
so what
with, like,
happened
3
was
things.
take your existing camera bump and you're just going to drag it to the very top left corner and actually integrate it into the frame of the phone. So what happens is the aluminum frame or the metal frame, I'm not sure what metal it is, but it sort of comes up the side of the phone, and then it bleeds in and turns into this beautiful camera cutout on the very top left edge of the phone, and then swoops back into the frame. I really like it. It's a unique design. We haven't seen this before, and the cameras are in a vertical integration, so it's that vertical array.
And they emphasize that it's metal rather than glass, so you're not gonna I guess you could break the previous one possibly. I don't know, but they say anyway, more durable either way.
Yep. So same camera sensors. Okay, 12 megapixel wide, 12 megapixel ultra wide, 64 megapixel telephoto. That actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's true. It might be a 60. No, I copied and pasted that. That's definitely accurate.
Okay.
And the telephoto is 3 times zoom. How have you been liking that? Because you've been using 2.5 on the Pro Max.
Yeah, 2.5 it's definitely the more zoom the better. I always think.
I think to me 3 is a little too much. I like 2. I feel like 2.5 is kind of a good medium. And then if I need to zoom more, I'm okay with using a little bit of software.
Yeah.
We also got 8K video, and I'm not excited about that at all.
No, you don't need 8K video.
How was it on last year's phone?
It's awful. And I mean, they pump out this like huge resolution specs and saying it's incredible. Resolution is not the end all be all, as is evident by the fact that they downgraded their screen from 4K to 1080, right? Like there's so many more things to things looking good than just resolution. So you can film 8K video, but you're watching it on a 1080p screen until you put it somewhere else. Like this is absolute trash.
Well said, Gabe.
Don't ever bother filming 8K.
4K is good.
They did introduce a new single take thing, which I've never really liked Samsung's camera technology, but I'm always interested to see how these things that they introduce will work out. Because I'm like, eventually they're going to get something that's good and we'll make Apple copy it.
How does single take work, and what are you getting with that?
I think they already have something somewhat like it, where it's like capture all or...
Yeah, it's like quick take or something like that.
Yeah, but
Maybe
basically
I'm
what you do
mistaken.
is you just hit like the shutter button, and it just like it's almost like it's taking continuous photos, but it's also video, and it knows when to take the photos, and it will produce like you might get 8 photos from that just single take, as well as maybe a video or a cool animation. It's kind of just letting all the cameras capture, and then the AI is just processing it and going, this is what we think you want, and hopefully it is what you want.
So I just tried it on my S20, and it's sort of like a 10-second video, and it looks like it pulls out frames from the video from the different cameras, stylizes them with different filters and effects. And I think the idea here is you can then choose what to share on social media.
Yep. So we'll see how that works. They also introduced a vlogger view, which is that, what is this exactly?
You can, there's actually 2 views, okay? You got director view and vlogger view. This is enabled by the Snapdragon 888 processor, by the way. They're taking this extra horsepower and they're giving you, with director's view, a mode where you can preview all 3 cameras while you're recording video, tap into the camera.
Kind of like what we saw with, what was that? Filmic Pro on the iPhone, yep.
Exactly like that. Vlogger view, same idea. You can just see yourself with the front-facing camera, swap between that, or I think record both at once.
Which I think they've had that
I think you're right,
Yeah.
actually.
So they just are putting new names on things that they might have already had. Hey, whatever, fine. It's half of the game is about marketing. Actually, 90% of the game is about marketing. Anything else here? Or
Yeah,
can we
I
go
think
to the
there's-
Ultra.
There's 3 things
All
I
right.
definitely want to mention.
Okay.
Qualcomm's new 3D Sonic Sensor Gen 2. This
Yeah.
is the underneath the screen fingerprint reader. Hopefully it's faster and better. I actually kind of don't like the one in the S20. I much preferred the ones they had before on the back of
On
the
the
phone.
back
or
of the phone, yeah.
Even the front, it was just so much faster. So
Yeah.
that's a big thing for me. We mentioned 5G at the top. This is enabled by the Snapdragon 888 processor, which actually includes the 5G modem integrated into the chip. Samsung saying this could improve battery life with better efficiency. That's great to
Now
see.
all the new S21s have this 888 except for the international ones, right?
That's correct. So all the international ones are getting Samsung's processor, the Exynos 2100. And I'm not sure how those two compare.
It'd be interesting to see some speed tests eventually between those.
Historically, the Snapdragon processor has outperformed the Samsung one typically by a substantial margin. So
Yeah, they specialize in this. This is pretty much the industry leading processor.
we'll see how it pans out. And the final bullet here, Wi-Fi 6E is here.
Which is confusing to people, I think.
I think, the Wi-Fi naming scheme hasn't been the greatest.